Welcome to Upticks with Jake Falcon, founder and CEO of Falcon Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, we help high net worth individuals overcome financial complexities. We do this by enhancing financial literacy and discussing topics in a language free from industry jargon. Join us as we help explain exactly what having a solid financial plan means, as Jake draws from years of experience in helping hundreds of individuals get financially organized and focused on their goals. We hope you find Upticks educational, entertaining, and shareable. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to the show. This is episode 246. Cory, thank you for joining me back on Upticks.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
And before we dive into today's episode, first, Cory, I want to thank our audience. Our subscriber count continues to grow. This show is about investment management and financial planning. And if you're not already subscribed, I would highly encourage you to subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, a thumbs up. Even if you want to go out there to iTunes and give some rating or comments, that's all greatly appreciated. Our mission with this show is to enhance financial literacy. That's why we're spending the time to do this, Cory. And it's been a lot of fun. 246 episodes. Oh, wow. You would think we'd be experts by now, but we're still working. We're still getting better.
The aim is progress, not perfection, right?
I like that. Moving forward. And I got something over here. I wanted to make sure and highlight this, that if you're a client of Falcon Wealth Advisors, you should have received your inaugural wealth journal in the mail. So we did mail these puppies out a week or two ago, and it's full of tons of useful information. We're really proud of this thing. It's one of the perks of me also owning a magazine. But like I said, hopefully you've gotten your copy. If you haven't received one and you want one, let myself or Cory know. We'll make sure that our team gets one out to the mail to you. Cory, before we go into today's topic, because it's a very important topic, this is probably one of the number one fears that we talk about with our clients is running out of money. Do you have anything fun to share with the audience, though, before we dig in?
Yes, unlike when we recorded the show last week, Jake and I was sitting down. Today I'm actually standing at my standing desk, which is a good thing. I injured my calf playing pickleball, of all sports, but it has continued to heal, frankly, more rapidly than I expected. So I still have a nice big boot on my left leg here, but I can stand up. I'm getting around a little bit more mobile. I'm looking forward to getting back outside more.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're healing quickly. You're young, so
that's right.
Those muscles heal quickly. So I'm glad to do that. I'm glad to hear that, not do that, but I'm glad to hear that, and hopeful you can get back on the tennis court here soon. Be careful.
I don't know if I mentioned this though, Jake. The doctor, the orthopedist that I saw, the first thing that he said to me is, "You are too young to get hurt playing pickleball." And I said, "I know, I agree." So I said, "Well, I was trying to play pickleball like tennis, so maybe that's the reason for the injury."
That's what I told you, isn't it?
It is.
Maybe I should be a doctor.
Maybe.
So I told you that. I said, Cory, that's like you getting hurt playing golf. Like, it shouldn't happen right now. You're way too young to do that. So, well, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad it was nothing major. And again, hopefully you get back to a speedy recovery. We are recording this. Our compliance takes a while to get this stuff approved. So we're recording this a little ahead of time. But as of this going out to our audience, our subscribers, which, by the way, Cory, aren't we up to around 7,000 subscribers, which is very cool.
We are.
We're literally sending this out to 7,000 people every week. But as of this going out, I'll be in Europe with Rachel. So we're super excited. We're going to Amsterdam, Paris, and the Loire Valley. And I'll hopefully have lots of stories to share with our audience when we get back. Cory, I am taking my laptop, so I haven't decided yet. Maybe I'll record a show in Paris if Rachel lets me. We'll see how that goes over, though. I'll have to figure out the time zone on that.
We'll play it by ear.
Okay, good. So let's get back on topic here. So for today's show, we wanted to talk about something very important, and we want to go over 4 main strategies on how to never run out of money. And I want to start with number 1, which is probably the most obvious, but believe it or not, Cory, a lot of people struggle with this. So the first tip here is to not spend more money than you make, or spend less than you make. Now, this happens in 2 different forms. So for the pre-retiree, the best thing you can do for yourself is make sure that you are not accumulating debt in the form of credit card, bank loans, payday loans, whatever it is. You want to make sure that the money that you have coming in from active employment is less than you're actually spending. And you don't want to forget to max out that 401k, put money in a Roth IRA, build up a brokerage, fund your health savings account, Maybe you've got 529 plans for kids or grandkids. Make sure all that savings is getting allocated with that income, and don't spend more money than you have coming in. Now, it's easy for me to say, Cory, and before I bridge into the second part of this, a quick way to get aligned with your budget is to make sure that your dollars are going towards items that you value. And I would highly encourage our audience to do a quick check-in, or maybe it's a long check-in, and literally write down, what are things that you value? Do you value experiences with your family? Do you value having a nice home? Do you value having a nice vehicle? Whatever it is, do you value playing golf or pickleball, right? What do you really care about? And make sure your dollars are going towards that. And all the other crap that you don't care about, be very frugal and thrifty and cut that stuff out of your life, right? If you don't value eating sweets, stop buying them. Stop spending money on that stuff. If it's not good for you physically, healthy, whatever, and it's wasting money, why are you buying? Quit buying jelly beans, right? And then number two, for the retiree, this is probably even more critical, because as a retiree, your income or earning ability is limited now. Typically, as you get later in life and you get deeper into retirement, your willingness to go and seek active employment gets to diminish quite substantially. So what we do at Falcon Wealth Advisors, and we're actually going to start doing this with our clients, is we want to look at what is your spend rate. So are you spending 3, 4, 5, 6, 10% of your account? And how much money are you earning every year, right? So if you're earning 7%, but you're spending 5%, you're probably good. And that'll be reflected in your financial plan. But if you're earning 7%, Cory, and you're spending 10%, your plan is probably going to show you running out of money unless you do something differently. So I think that's very important for a retiree to understand that. We are going to get a little deeper with that with our clients as we review their financial plan. So stay tuned on that. We've always kind of done that. We've always looked at it, but we're going to get even more explicit with that conversation with our clients. There's a long number one, Cory, but I wanted to, it's obvious, but I just want clients to understand, align your spending with your values. Don't spend more than you make. That is a great way to not run out of money. Cory, what's number two? Or go ahead.
So yeah, no, I'm sorry. So the second tip here is to really, Jake, you've highlighted it. I just want to go a bit deeper, but it is aligning your spending with your values, aligning your budget with your values, however you want to think about that. And I think that it's very wise, the way that you pointed out, for clients, for people to check in on what their values are. That's really where you have to start, right? I mean, the point is you can't get clear on what matters the most if you're not clear on what your values are. And the whole objective in all of this is to help you really almost establish some disciplines around spending money on the things that are important and not spending much money on the things that aren't important. But by doing that, it allows you it almost empowers you to spend your money, as opposed to letting the money control you because you're, frivolously spending money on things that just aren't important to you. And I think that's what leaves people sometimes with that feeling. So
hold on real quick. What are some tools that we have to help clients with that, Cory? So I apologize, I took your thunder there a little bit, but what are some of the tools that Falcon Wealth Advisors, that our financial planning group can exercise or use to help clients? Because some clients are like, Cory, I don't know what you're talking about. What do I value? I want to live, right? So what do you recommend on that?
Yeah, so we actually have a program, a tool that we've gone through with some clients, the budgeting block exercise that, Jake, we've actually talked about on the show here previously, I know, that is really designed to at least help you start by saying, okay, if this is what my income is each month, where's the money going? So at the very least, just to visualize where the income is going, and then taking a step back and evaluating if that's the way that you want things set up. If the items that you're spending the most money on are important to you. You mentioned earlier, Jake, you talked about if somebody, values having a nice home, for example, or maybe somebody wants to redo their kitchen, right? So they can cook more at home, they can do things. I think the flip side to that is you really should evaluate how frequently you are going out to eat, or how much money you are spending on food away from the house, because that will really tell you if that's important or if it's something that you value.
Yeah, so those building blocks are for our visual learners, right? So a lot of people say, I'm a visual learner, Jake. I got to see it. I want to touch it. So literally, Cory, we would put on a table, or our planners would, they would do this exercise with their clients. They'll put maybe mortgage on a Post-it note, right? And they'll say mortgage. And then the client will stack up blocks. Maybe each block is $100, right? Yep. So if your mortgage is $1,000 a month, you'll have 10 blocks stacked up, right? And then you might have going out to dinner and you say, okay, well, we spend 200 a month on that. So then you'd only have 2 blocks there. So after you're done with this exercise, you'll have a row or a whole table full, depending on how many categories you define, of blocks stacked up. And you'll be able to see, wow, Cory, I spend a lot of blocks on golf, right?
Sure.
And you say, you know what? I hate golf. I don't even want to play golf. Why am I spending 4 blocks a month on golf when I don't even particularly enjoy it? Now, that's not for me, and that's just an example. So again, that's for our visual learners. For our more analytical thinkers, Cory, what do you have? What tool do we have that they could use?
As far as aligning their spending with their values goes, I think there's a number of different ways to look at it. I mean, from our perspective, though, using some of the tools inside of our financial planning software, EMoney is the name of the software that we use, and our clients, of course, are familiar with that. But to understand, I mean, you can really drill down to expenses, and I found conversations with some more analytical clients to be helpful when they look at the next 20 or 30 years and understand what their actual expenses are and what their goals are and what their priorities are, because we have those discussions around why is money important to you? And that sometimes I think that seems like a very big abstract question, or people think, so I can pay my bills, right? So I can make my mortgage payment. But I do think it goes a layer deeper than that. And that's really what we like to work through, both through the visual exercise that you mentioned, Jake, but also helping clients understand what their financial plan assumes their expenses are, where they're spending money, and how those expenditures are lined up with the goals that they've outlined.
Right, right. So if you're worried about this, if you're worried about running out of money, use EMoney. You're already paying for it. That's one of the perks of being a client of Falcon Wealth Advisors, is you have access to this very robust financial planning software that we actually use for our clients. So you literally go to falconwealthadvisors.com, client login. Once you log in, there's literally a link that says plan. That's where you'll go. The plan has your long-term goals that Cory was just talking about. And there's also a spending category that you literally can itemize out your spending, and it'll run a nice little pie chart and show you how much you're spending on food and utilities and taxes and mortgages and clothing and whatever it is you want to categorize on there. It's pretty thorough, very robust. I use that personally, just to get a gauge of like, where's my money going and how much am I spending on XYZ? That way I don't have to worry about it and wonder. It also helps me track my savings. I can put in there, how much did I put in my retirement savings? How much did I put in my savings account or brokerage account, so that I know exactly where I stand at any given point in the year. It definitely can help you alleviate some of those concerns. So use the tools that are available to you to get those values aligned with where your money's going. Good one, Cory. And again, I took a little bit of your thunder in here.
All right.
Number 3 would be, don't buy into these cookie cutter, projections or advice that you read, see, hear, listen to. Now, again, the point of Upticks is to enhance your financial literacy. We are not giving you advice on the show. In order to get advice, you've got to book an appointment with myself or Cory or one of our financial planners, and we're happy to go into your financial plan to give you some custom advice. What I'm saying is, don't read AARP or something on Social Security, or go to some steak dinner and hear some guru tell you that you should buy an annuity, or that you should only spend 3 or 4% of your income, or you should turn Social Security on at 70. Blah, blah, blah. My point is, everybody's plan is different. Everybody's plan is unique. Everybody's goals, spending, values are different. You really need to talk with a chartered retirement planning counselor or a certified financial planner who could walk you through these exercises and build out a proper plan for you. Don't just read some magazine, look at something on TikTok and think that's what I should do. This guy on TikTok, Cory, told me I only need to spend 3.5% of my IRA. That's it. Well, that's not always the case. We have some clients that spend way less than that, and we have some that spend way more than that. But it's all determined on their financial plan. So don't buy into this cookie cutter garbage that's out there on social media. It should just be entertainment. Maybe it gets your thoughts going a little bit. But if you want real advice, you need to talk to a real financial advisor, and your friends at Falcon Wealth Advisors are happy to have that conversation with you.
Good.
What's number 4? We're all waiting.
Our 4th tip is to meet with your wealth advisor annually, not with the person that you saw on TikTok annually, Jake. Well, unless maybe I suppose it's your wealth advisor, but they shouldn't really be disseminating advice through that platform anyhow. But when we're talking about meeting with your wealth advisor at least once annually, the reason that is so crucial is because none of this as far as financial planning goes, investment management, the services really that we provide for the clients that we work with. None of this is intended to be a one-time exercise or something where you establish a plan and you put it on a shelf and say, okay, good luck for the next 20 or 30 years. Let's see if it all plays out, because life happens and things change. You've highlighted this on the show before, Jake, that there really isn't a roadmap to follow, because a map implies that it's static, that it's fixed, and that nothing changes. The idea is you want to understand what direction you're headed in. You want to understand what you can do to optimize the path along the way, but also to make changes as you need to make changes, because we have a lot of conversations with clients about tax planning, about their tax situation, people's income changes, their needs change, their healthcare changes. There's all kinds of things that can impact someone's financial plan. And that's why it's crucial to make sure that you review it, that you're aligned with your plan, that you and your advisor, frankly, are aligned on what your objectives are. So that way you can make the appropriate adjustments along the way and ultimately just directionally continue to move in the direction that you want to go.
Right. And I think I would encourage our audience also to understand that sometimes our audience will reflect back and be like, well, 3 years ago, my financial plan said this. Why doesn't it say that anymore? And the obvious answer should be, but again, a lot of people don't understand this, and that's okay. They don't do what we do every day, is that your life has changed, your situation has changed, the market's changed. So your account has gone up and down in value. You've spent more or less money. So your financial plan, the minute you walk out of our office or stopped at the Zoom meeting or hung up the phone, is already different, right? Because the money is changing, you're spending, tax laws change, needs, goals, wants, wishes, all that stuff changes. And so don't get caught up in what your financial plan looked like 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Sure, if you want to reference it as a milestone, that's fine. But I don't want you to challenge your advisor and say, hey, 3 years ago it said this. Why doesn't it look like that? And I tell well, you spent more money, right? Or the market is down. Like, stuff happens. And that's, I think, why it's very critical that you meet regularly with your advisor. So again, and our financial planners, they check in with our clients regularly to say, hey, do you want to go over your financial plan? Do you have questions? Let's update it. Let's make sure that that trajectory, like you just commented on, is moving in the direction that we all want it to move in, right? And so don't get caught up. A financial plan is not a roadmap. It is not static. It is not in concrete. It's not a monument. It's a living, breathing document that is robust and that changes and that moves as your life moves. It moves as the market moves. And you've got to roll with it, and you've got to adjust it, and you've got to be willing to review it. And that's what we're here for. You and myself have surrounded ourselves with 5 now financial planners that's literally their job at Falcon Wealth Advisors, are to go over these plans with our clients. And if there's something unique or complex that they haven't come across, that's when they pull in yourself or myself to help advise the client and guide it. So we've got these planners. They're on maintenance mode for our clients. They're meeting with most of our clients now to check in on these financial plans and make adjustments as they deem necessary and as what works best for the client. So it's very important. Good one.
Yeah, I think that's, it's kind of like, Jake, you brought up looking at a financial plan that was ran a few years ago. It spurred the thought while you were talking about that. Like, I think about how I get an annual physical every year, right? Get blood drawn, see what the numbers look like. But I'm not going back and saying, well, here's what they were 5 years ago. Shouldn't they still be the same? Because the way that I've exercised, what I've had to eat or drink, and everything else along the way, of course, can influence that. But that's exactly why I go and do it once a year. So if and when there are changes or modifications that I need to make, I know that, as opposed to just assuming everything is working the way that it should and then finding out too far down the path that maybe that's not the case.
That's great, Cory. I love that analogy, actually. It's just like you weighed something a year ago and now you weigh more or less. And that'd be like you telling your doctor, well, why do I weigh more? Last year I didn't weigh this much. And the doctor would be like, I don't know, you probably ate more, right? Or you didn't exercise enough or whatever, right? Or maybe you weigh less and you got to get that checked on. It's like, well, maybe you're not eating enough, or maybe there's something else. So that's a great example. We call it your financial physical. I'm sure some advisor has used that before. But again, the idea is that you want to check in on that. You want to understand what's going on in your plan. You want to educate yourself and lean on your friends at Falcon Wealth Advisors. That's why, Cory, we've built a wonderful team of professionals that can have these meetings and go over these things with you and do these checkups on your financial plan. So good. So a quick recap here. Number 1, you don't want to run out of money. Don't spend more than you make. It's a tough conversation to have with some people because they want to buy, and it's like, you know what? Sometimes you got to slow down and you got to get disciplined and you got to stop spending more than the income that's coming in, because that's a sure way to run out of money, is to overspend. Number two, go ahead, Cory. I won't steal your thunder again.
Align your spending with your values. Make sure that your spending is ultimately going towards what matters to you, and that you are not letting money ultimately control you. Like you said, Jake, someone wants to buy. I think the more clear you are around your values, the easier, frankly, it probably makes it for people to not make impulsive purchases and sort of have that filter in place to make sure that whatever it is that they're spending their hard-earned money on is something that is important to them.
Right. Stop buying the jelly beans. They're not good for you anyways. Save your money. Right. Number three, don't buy into fads, gurus, blah, blah, blah. You should not be getting financial advice from this show or any show, right? This is to enhance your financial literacy, and that's it. You want to get advice, you need to talk with somebody that's trained to do this, that's licensed, that knows what they're talking about and has experience. Cory, you and I have literally met with thousands of people, and no plan looks the same. So why would I be so foolish to get on TikTok and tell people how much money they should spend? It's stupid. It really is. And fourth one?
Fourth one is meet with your wealth advisor annually for the financial physical that we just talked about.
Yeah. Check in with your advisor. Again, Cory and I and our team at Falcon Wealth Advisors, we are humbled. We have over 700 clients that we're working with. So myself and Cory aren't always available. That's why we've built up the financial planning group. We've got 5 financial planners now, all available to our clients to check in on their plans. Frankly, Cory, they're probably better at running the software these days than you and I are. So that's why we hired them. That's why we trained them. And that's what we're here for. So they are here to work with you on your financial plan to make sure it's going in the direction that makes most sense for you and your family. Great episode, Cory. I do want to end it with one common question. And if you have one, because we have a little bit more time here, but a good common question that pertains to this episode is a client asked me the other day that said, okay, I've got a margin loan, which is basically like a loan. When do I start paying this thing off, right? Because we don't want to keep debt forever. It's a great question. And again, for this particular client, what we're going to look at is when the account, because the market's been rough the last year, when the account starts to recover, we don't know when that will be, but once we get that money back over his target rate of return, then we're going to understand that, like, look, we've got more money than we've planned on because we're ahead of your target rate of return. Then we're going to start tackling that debt. Or maybe when you sell something or if you come into a windfall, then we're going to start tackling that debt. But we're going to be very strategic about it. And my point of this is we're not going to use emotions to determine decisions on this. So we're going to be very strategic. We're going to continue to monitor it. Just like you said, we're going to check in on it every time we review. And as the account changes, we're going to strategically build a plan for tackling this debt. So I don't want people to get caught up. Certainly don't get emotional about your investments. But the point here is don't get emotional about your debt either. Understand that it's a form of leverage. And as long as you have a plan in place to tackle it, that you can ultimately pay it off. Do you have a common question you've come across lately?
That's a really good one that you just highlighted. But I think, Jake, a common question that I've gotten, well, a lot of the questions that we get pertain to the market, which we talk, of course, a lot about on this show. But the common question that I get from clients that I've actually just had this discussion with someone recently was around healthcare expenses and how to project and plan for what their healthcare is going to cost as far as their long-term financial plan goes. Because if someone's retiring at 55, 60 years old, they're thinking about the longevity as far as their plan goes and the healthcare that they're going to pay for along the way. That's another area, healthcare. I mean, we all know this now. That's changing each and every year, right? It is not static. It has looked different each and every year. And for clients, frankly, and for the particular client that I had this conversation with recently, we talked about if they had concerns about their future healthcare costs, we can map that out in their financial plan. But if that's really a concern of theirs, that they really want to make, that is really important that they're going to be situated as far as that goes, it actually kind of takes the conversation back to, all right, well, where are you spending money right now that isn't that important to you? If making sure that your healthcare is taken care of long-term as far as your financial plan goes, that might mean that there's modifications that need to be made, but at least you're clear about what's important to you and you have some clarity on what the path forward is on how to put yourself in the best position that you can.
Yeah, makes sense. So again, yeah, healthcare should be important to everybody, frankly. That's one way to screw up a financial plan is to not have that covered. But yeah, that's smart. Making sure that, hey, you want to make sure we got enough room in the financial plan to cover this. let's see if we got to cut somewhere else where you're kind of bleeding money, so that we can make sure your healthcare is always going to be taken care of. Good. Thank you for sharing that with me on today's episode, Cory. Thank you for joining me. Thank you to all of our viewers and our listeners out there. We really appreciate it. Continue to subscribe, join, like, share our content, and thank you all. And we hope you have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Upticks. Click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. Also, be sure to visit our website, falconwealthadvisors.com, and click the Contact Us button if you'd like to meet with Jake and his team.